Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the GioMoShow Oakland Men's Basketball Game Reviews. I am your host, Giovanni Mosheri. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the GioMoShow for all your weekly Oakland sports coverage. My guest here today, a former four-year Oakland men's basketball student manager and a man who has basically grown up in the arena. He's now a beat writer for the HoriZone Roundtable, focusing on the Golden Grizzlies and also working with the Detroit News. It is the one and only Griffin Beers on the GioMoShow. Griff, what's going on?
That's quite the introduction. I like it. That's probably the most official introduction I've ever gotten.
Well,
Thank
it's
you.
none of it was untrue, so we're just stating facts here.
I love it.
Well, so happy to have you on. If you guys want to find work from Griffin Beers, you could go to HoriZoneRoundtable.com and you can find him on Twitter at Griffin_Beers number 2. That's just the straight up number 2. You'll find him on Twitter for all the Oakland Golden Grizzlies coverage for the HoriZone Roundtable. So, Griffin, I bring you on here because Oakland has gone through a grueling non-conference road trip, starting at Boise State, then to Illinois and the University of Kansas. And from the surface, it's 3 straight losses. The scores aren't very pretty, but Griffin, I know that you know that there's a lot beyond the score.
Yeah, obviously a pretty grueling stretch. I don't know if there's anybody in the country that's played as hard of a 3 games in a row as Oakland just did. There's Ken Palm is an analytics website for college basketball, and they don't take data in for non D1 games at all. So the Defiance game isn't factored in. But in this morning's version of the non-conference strength of schedule, Oakland had the third hardest schedule in the country so far. So uh, not many teams at the mid-major level are going to go and win any of those games. So
Yeah, so it's all about looking beyond the score, kind of seeing the context and the improvement that teams make within that kind of game. And we talked on the Jomo show last week. We talked about the Boise State game, where there was a lot to clean up. But in those 2 following games at Illinois and at Kansas, there was a lot of things that Oakland cleaned up. So Griffin, I guess, taking the road trip as a whole, what has the Golden Grizzlies improved on?
well, I think it's pretty clear right now, and this has kind of been the opposite of the last couple of years, just because of the type of defense that Oakland plays with the funky zone that everybody's learning. But early in the year, right now, I think the defense is actually ahead of the offense. And I think what you saw at Boise was a defense. You saw that guys trying to learn, figure out their spots. Right, they're not confident at all in what they're doing, and it showed on the final score. They gave up. I mean, I think it was the upper 80s in the point total,
87 to
and
43, yeah.
right, and the game just got away from them right away. You go to Illinois, and you see that they're kind of trusting. Okay, like this is where I'm supposed to go. There are more deflections. There's more contested shots, right? And you look at the final score, and now Illinois is in the mid 60s, right?
66 to
Kansas is
54.
Yes, and Kansas didn't score 80 points, and that's the number 1 team in the country compared to Boise State, who almost scored 90, right? So I think you're seeing major progression on defense. And I think the other thing that you saw was this team is figuring out how they want to play. And especially in these power conference games, they're not going to want to play at a fast pace. They really want to control the tempo and walk it up the floor and, really slow things down. And at Boise, right away, the as Neil Rule likes to say, the horses got out of the barn very early. Boise was, flying up and down the court. Oakland didn't have a chance, right? At Illinois, you see them taking their time, taking care of the ball, walking it up the floor, really controlling the tempo, and that's why those scores were a little closer. So, good stuff.
Definitely, but and like you mentioned, with the defense being the highlight, the positive of this road trip, the offense, man, it's missing those 3-pointers badly. So for you, I mean, like you've trained and practiced with the team for 4 years as a student at Oakland. Like, does it usually take a little bit for these 3-pointers to fall, or is it just kind of a slow start this year?
I would say both. I would say it can take time. I think the environment and the deep level of defense that they're facing, um, is tough, right? And none of the guys that are on the team, there are proven shooters on the roster. Like, I mean, DQ is a proven shooter. Last year he was a good shooter. Malcolm Christie shot 40 something percent in Canada last year. Like he can make shots. Jason Woodward shot 35% in the HoriZone League last year from three. Um, they have never been in a role like this, right? And so, you look at a guy like, say, Malcolm, who's coming into Division One basketball for the first time, and his first taste of it is Boise State, Illinois, Kansas. So he's getting contested like he's never been contested. They're guarding a guy like DQ, as like the number one option, and last year he's the fourth or fifth option on the court, right? So I think for this particular team, it's definitely taking a bit more time for shots to fall. But also, I mean, shooters, sometimes the shots just don't go in for long stretches. And unfortunately, that, like, when more than one guy has a shooting slump, that's going to be a cause for a problem. And I think that's happened to start this year. So.
Definitely, yeah. Looking at the box score for Illinois, Woodrich was 1 of 9 from 3, Cole 2 of 7, Christie 1 of 5. It's like it's a shame it has to happen to everybody at once, but for what Campy always says is it's all about the HoriZone League season. So if it has to happen, I guess better to happen on the road in a non-conference, right?
Definitely, I would say. Even in these next couple games, you got a little MAC tour. It's not HoriZone League play yet, but you play Eastern Michigan, you play Toledo. Those are two teams that you like to compare yourself to. And especially with Eastern Michigan being a home game, if you're still seeing Oakland, dead last in 3-point percentage after the next 2 or 3 games, then I might get a little worried. But I don't expect that to happen. I expect they're going to get home and they're going to be shooting, more of a normal percentage than usual. And so that'll be something to keep an eye out in the next couple of games.
And somebody who hasn't been hard to keep an eye on is Alan Mukeba. Holy crap, this dude is as advertised. Sports Center level dunks, multiple of them against Illinois, and going toe-to-toe with Hunter Dickinson. Some would say winning the one-on-one battle. This dude is all he's cracked up to be, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's proven it. And I think the one thing that's really been encouraging is he is not scared of anybody. I mean, it started in that first exhibition game with Michigan, and they're starting 2 7-footers and guys that have almost half a foot on them, and he's going right at him. You saw at Kansas, it's Hunter Dickinson, who's, literally 7'2", and Allen is 6'6" or something, but he's going right at him. He's getting them up in the air. He's drawing fouls. And yeah, I mean, he's proven to be quite the force especially at the HoriZone League level.
Definitely, and I recall Oakland. They did little segments of Campy doing his basically his recruiting analysis of each of these new players, and he was saying with Mukeba that he can show up and be one of the best players in the HoriZone League right away, and it's looking like that. And my mind goes back to Oakland's streak of having a first league player for the past 18 years. Could Mukeba keep that streak going?
I mean, he's showing that he can. I would not count out DQ yet. I think, especially in the HoriZone League, that he will be able to use more of his athleticism that you saw last year, and get to the basket more and get more open shots. But between those two, I think, with the way Campy runs offense, where it basically, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? If the guy's scoring, you're going to keep feeding them. And so I think one of those two, I feel good about them having the numbers to keep that streak going.
That sure would be a lot of fun. And so, Griffin, to wrap things up here, you kind of mentioned it a little bit with the Eastern Michigan game coming up this Thursday, 7 o'clock at the Arena. Finally returning home. What are you expecting to see against the Eagles?
Yeah, Eastern, like I said, it's a good game to compare yourself to, because Eastern Michigan has just played IU Indianapolis and at Cleveland State. And both those games were competitive games. Eastern won at IU Indy and then lost a close game at Cleveland State. So it's the kind of game where if you're Oakland, if you can come out and you win that game and you're comparing yourself to the teams that you need to be comparing yourself to, you feel pretty good, right? But if you come on, you're flat and you lose by 10 or 15 points, it's not the end of the world, but you're a little behind, the teams in your league that you need to be. So I think it'll be a very good test. I think you'll see, guys, that are Oakland size, right? So, I mean, you'll see Allen, he's not going to be guarded by this mountain of a man, right? He's going to be, having someone that he can maybe score over a little bit easier. You'll be seeing the shooters get a little more open, hopefully, and hopefully the defense can keep it going for Oakland. So.
And we're looking forward to it. I'll be at the game myself. Finally get to use a little bit of those recent grad season tickets and get a good view of all the action. I can't wait. And I'm sure you're going to be there too, right?
Yes, sir. I'll be there.
That's what I'm talking about. It's Griffin Beers, everybody. Oakland beat writer for the HoriZone Roundtable with some extra credit work with the Detroit News. You guys could go to HoriZoneRoundtable.com to find his work and his coverage of the Golden Grizzlies all season long. And I can tell you this, folks, this will not be the last time you see Griffin on this show.
I'm excited. I'm excited for it.
Appreciate you coming on, Griff.
Yes, sir.